Respected, the next 30 minutes you spend with me could completely rewrite the next 30 years of your life. Not because I have all the answers, but because somewhere deep inside you, you already do. You just haven't been shown how to find them yet. Let me tell you something that took me a long time to understand. And I mean a long time. I'm talking about years of struggle, years of pain, years of looking in the mirror and wondering why things weren't working out the way I planned. See, most people walk through life carrying a dream in their chest but never doing anything about it. They wake up every single morning, go to the same job, eat the same lunch, come home to the same routine, watch the same television shows, go to sleep, and do it all over again the next day. And here's the scary part, they do that for 30 years. 30 years. And then one day they wake up old, tired, and full of regret, wondering where all the time went. I don't want that for you. I refuse to let that be your story. See, there's a secret that 98% of people walking this earth never figure out. And it's not complicated. It's not hidden in some expensive book or locked behind some fancy university degree. It's something so simple that when I tell it to you, your first reaction might be to say, that's it? That's the secret? But I'm telling you right now, don't let its simplicity fool you. Because the people who truly understand this one thing, the ones who actually grab it, internalize it, live by it, those are the people who end up living lives that the rest of the world can only dream about. And the secret is this. The next 30 years of your life are going to be built inside the next 30 minutes of your thinking. Read that again. Let it breathe. The next 30 years of your life are going to be built inside the next 30 minutes of your thinking. Not your working, not your plan, not your praying, although all of those things matter enormously. But first, it starts with how you think right now in this moment about who you are and what you're capable of. Now, let me bring in somebody I want you to think about for a second. A man named Steve Harvey. Now you might know Steve Harvey as the host of Family Feud. You might know him as the man who makes millions of people laugh every single day. You might know him from his books or his radio show or his television appearances. But what most people don't know, what the cameras don't always show, is that Steve Harvey was once a homeless man sleeping in his car. He was living out of a Ford Tempo, bathing in gas station bathrooms, surviving off whatever little he could scrape together. And during that time, while most people would have given up, while most people would have said, this dream isn't worth it, Steve Harvey sat in that car and he made a decision. He decided that his present situation was not his permanent destination. And that decision, that one single mental shift, changed everything. Now, I want you to understand something. Steve Harvey didn't become successful the day he got his first big break. He became successful the day he decided he was worth more than where he was. The outward success was just the world catching up to what he had already decided on the inside. That's what most people miss. They're waiting for the external world to validate their internal dream. They're waiting for somebody to give them permission to be great. They're waiting for the right moment, the right connection, the right circumstances. And while they're waiting, life is moving. Time is ticking. And before they know it, 10 years have passed, then 20, then 30. I've talked to people in their 60s and 70s who still have that dream sitting in their chest, untouched, unexplored, unlived. And when you sit with them long enough, when you get past the small talk and the pleasantries, and you get down to the real conversation, you can see it in their eyes, the grief of a life, half lived. The quiet mourning of a person who knew they had more to give, but never gave it. And that is one of the most heartbreaking things a human being can experience. I don't want that to be you. So let me ask you something right now, and I want you to really sit with this question. Not just hear it, but feel it. If you knew, and I mean absolutely knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that you could not fail, what would you do with your life? What dream would you chase? What business would you start? What relationship would you repair? What talent would you develop? What country would you move to? What book would you write? Think about it. Because that answer, that thing that came up when I asked you that question, that is your dream. That is what God put inside of you before you were born. That is your gift to the world. And the world is waiting desperately, urgently waiting for you to stop hiding it. See, Steve Harvey has this philosophy that I absolutely love. He talks about how God has already given every single person alive a gift, not a maybe gift. Not a if you work hard enough gift, an already given gift. Something that is uniquely yours. Something that when you do it, time disappears. Something that when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel like work, it feels like breathing. And he says the only question is whether you'll have the courage to unwrap it and share it with the world. Most people never do. Most people let fear wrap that gift back up, put it back on the shelf, and collect dust for a lifetime. And fear is sneaky. I want you to understand that. Fear doesn't always show up looking like fear. Sometimes fear shows up looking like practicality. I need to be responsible. Sometimes it shows up looking like humility. I don't want to be arrogant and think I'm special. Sometimes it shows up looking like wisdom. Now, just isn't the right time. But underneath all of those disguises is still the same monster. It's fear. And fear has killed more dreams than failure ever could. Because failure, real failure, is actually one of the greatest teachers you will ever have in your life. Failure means you tried. Failure means you stepped out. Failure means you respected your dream enough to give it a chance. But fear doesn't even give you that. Fear keeps you frozen. Fear keeps you small. Fear keeps you comfortable in an uncomfortable life because at least it's the discomfort you know. And here's the thing about comfort zones. They're called zones for a reason. Everything inside that zone feels safe, feels familiar, feels manageable, but nothing inside that zone grows. Nothing inside that zone expands. Nothing inside that zone transforms. And if you stay in your comfort zone for 30 years, guess what you'll have at the end of those 30 years? A very comfortable, very familiar, very unfulfilling life. Steve Harvey jumped out of his comfort zone. He jumped without a net. He jumped when people told him he was crazy. He jumped when the circumstances said it wasn't possible. And here's what he discovered on the other side of that jump: the net appeared. Not before he jumped, after. The net only appears after the jump. That's faith. That's how it works. You don't get to see the net first. You don't get a guarantee before you take the leap. The guarantee comes in the leap itself. The courage to move before everything is perfect, before all the answers are clear, before all the doors are open. That is the difference between the people who live extraordinary lives and the people who spend their lives watching extraordinary people on television. And let me pause here for just a moment because I want to talk to somebody specific. I want to talk to the person watching this right now who has been delaying their dream for just one more year for the last 5 years. I want to talk to the person who knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing but is still telling themselves they're not ready yet. I want to talk to the person who is brilliant, talented, full of ideas, and absolutely paralyzed. You are ready. Not perfectly ready. Not everything lined up ready, but ready enough. Ready to take the first step. Ready to make the first call. Ready to write the first page. Ready to have the first conversation. Ready to plant the first seed. Because here's what nobody tells you about seeds. You don't plant a seed and see a tree the next morning. You plant a seed, you water it, you tend to it, you protect it, and then one day, seemingly out of nowhere, something breaks through the ground. And once it breaks through, it grows faster than you ever imagined. Your dream works the same way. The 30 minutes you spend deciding right now, truly deciding, not hoping, not wishing, but deciding those 30 minutes will be the soil in which the next 30 years of your life are planted. That is the secret. Now I want to take you somewhere. I want to take you back in time for a moment. I want you to think about the very first dream you ever had, not the practical one, not the realistic one that somebody helped you trim down so it would fit inside the box of what was acceptable or achievable or sensible. I'm talking about the first one, the raw one, the one that showed up when you were a child and the whole world still felt like it was made a possibility. The one that made your eyes light up before anybody told you that light was too bright. Do you remember it? Maybe it was to be a musician. Maybe it was to be an athlete. Maybe it was to travel the world or build something from nothing or help people in a way that nobody else could. Maybe it was something so specific and so personal that you've never even said it out loud to another human being because you were afraid of what they would think or how they would look at you. I want you to hold that dream right now. Hold it gently, because what I'm about to tell you in this part of our conversation could be the thing that finally gives you permission to take it seriously again. See, one of the most powerful things Steve Harvey ever said, and I've studied this man, I've listened to him speak, I've read his words, and I've tried to understand what makes him so extraordinarily effective at reaching people. One of the most powerful things he ever said was this. He said, your dream is not for you. Your dream is for the people it's going to help. Your dream is for the lives it's going to change. Your dream is for the community it's going to elevate, the children it's going to inspire, the world it's going to make better. When he said that, Something cracked open in me. Because most of us have been thinking about our dreams from entirely the wrong angle. We've been thinking about our dreams in terms of what we get: the money, the fame, the recognition, the security, the validation. And when we frame it that way, fear wins every time. Because fear can always convince you that you don't deserve those things. Fear can always find a reason why you're not qualified enough, not talented enough, not smart enough, not connected enough. But when you flip it, when you stop thinking about what you get and start thinking about what the world loses if you don't show up fully, suddenly the conversation changes entirely. Think about it this way. Imagine there is someone out there right now, a young girl in a small town who is struggling, who feels invisible, who feels like her life has no direction or purpose. And imagine that somewhere in your dream and the thing you've been too afraid to pursue is the exact message that girl needs to hear, the exact story that would save her, the exact example that would show her that someone who came from where she came from could rise to something extraordinary. Now imagine you never pursue that dream. Imagine you let fear win. Imagine you spend the next 30 years safe and comfortable and quiet. That girl never gets what? But she needs. And maybe that seems dramatic. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, come on, my dream isn't that important. But I'm here to tell you, you don't know that. You cannot possibly know the reach of what you were put here to do. You cannot see the ripple effects of the life you were designed to live. And that's exactly why you have to live it anyway. Steve Harvey talks about this beautifully when he speaks about his own journey. He says that when he was sleeping in that car, when he had nothing, when the world had given him every reason to quit, he kept going because he believed that somebody needed what he had. Not the world, not everybody, just somebody. And he figured if he could just reach that somebody, it would be worth everything he went through. And today, Steve Harvey reaches tens of millions of people. He built an empire not on talent alone, because this world is full of talented people who are broken, invisible, and unfulfilled. He built it on a decision. A decision to believe that his gift was bigger than his circumstances. A decision to trust that God doesn't plant dreams in people's hearts without also planting the capacity to fulfill them. Now I want to talk about something that most motivational content never addresses honestly, and that's the middle. Because everyone talks about the beginning, the dream, the decision, the leap of faith, and everyone loves to talk about the end, the success, the achievement, the mountaintop moment. But nobody talks about the middle. Nobody talks about the years between the decision and the destination. Nobody talks about what happens in that long, uncertain, sometimes brutal stretch of road between where you start and where you're going. The middle is where most people quit. The middle is where doubt moves in and sets up permanent residence. The middle is where the people around you start questioning your choices, where the money gets tight, where the progress feels invisible, where you start wondering if maybe you were wrong about yourself all along. The middle is the test, and not a test designed to break you, a test designed to build you. Because here's what I've come to understand about the journey toward a meaningful life: you cannot carry the weight of the destination without first developing the strength that only the middle can give you. The struggles of the middle are not punishment, they are preparation. Every single obstacle you face on the way to your dream is making you into the person who can handle the dream when it arrives. Steve Harvey didn't become Steve Harvey just when he got famous. He became Steve Harvey in a Ford Tempo with no money, no prospects, and no certainty. He became Steve Harvey in the years of performing for small crowds, getting laughed at and passed over and told no more times than he can count. He became Steve Harvey in the middle. And by the time the world was ready to receive him, he was already ready for the world. That's how it works. That's always how it works. Now, let me shift this conversation to something incredibly practical, because I don't ever want to just inspire you and send you home with a good feeling that fades by Tuesday morning. I want to give you something you can use, something you can apply, something that can genuinely begin to restructure how you think about and approach the next chapter of your life. Here is the first thing I want you to understand about time. The way you spend the next 30 minutes of every single day will determine the architecture of your next 30 years. Not the big moments, not the dramatic decisions, not the once-in-a-decade leaps. The 30 minutes every morning before anyone else gets your attention. The 30 minutes you choose to invest in developing your gift, studying your craft, nurturing your dream. Most people give their best 30 minutes to social media. They wake up, they pick up their phones before their feet hit the floor, and they immediately begin consuming other people's lives. other people's highlights, other people's carefully curated versions of reality. And in doing so, in that first 30 minutes of consciousness, they program their minds for comparison, for inadequacy, for distraction. Flip that. Just flip it. Give those 30 minutes to yourself. Give them to your dream. Give them to your growth. Read something that expands your thinking. Write something that clarifies your vision. Sit in silence and let your best ideas rise to the surface. Exercise your body so your mind has the energy to carry your ambitions. Pray and connect to something larger than yourself so that your steps feel guided rather than random. Just 30 minutes every single day, and watch what happens over the course of 30 years. The mathematics of consistent daily investment are staggering when you sit down and truly look at them. 30 minutes a day is approximately 182 hours a year. Over 30 years, that's more than 5,400 hours poured into the one thing that matters most to you. Do you know what 5,400 hours of deliberate practice and intentional development turns you into? It turns you into a master. It turns you into an authority. It turns you into someone who the world cannot ignore. But here's the condition. Here's the non-negotiable. Those 30 minutes have to be sacred. They have to be protected with the same ferocity with which you protect everything else in your life that you consider valuable. Your car has insurance. Your house has locks. Your money has a bank. Your dream needs protection too. It needs a time and a space that is dedicated to it and defended from everything that would compete for it. Because let me tell you something, and this is important, the world is not going to make room for your dream. The world is not going to pause its demands and say, hey, we notice you're trying to build something meaningful. Take all the time you need. The world is going to keep demanding. Your job is going to keep calling. Your family is going to keep needing. Your phone is going to keep buzzing. The bills are going to keep arriving. And in the middle of all of that noise and all of that demand, your dream is going to need you to be intentional enough to carve out the space it needs to breathe. Steve Harvey didn't get discovered because he waited for the world to notice him. He created his own moments. He showed up even when the room was empty. He prepared as if the biggest opportunity of his life was right around the corner because he believed it was. And that kind of preparation, that kind of relentless showing up before the reward is visible, that is what separates the people who talk about their dreams from the people who live them. And speaking of showing up, I want to address something that is silently destroying the potential of millions of people right now. And that's the disease of comparison. We live in a time when the entire world's highlight reel is available to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch someone else's success on your phone during your lunch break. You can see someone your age living the life you imagined for yourself while you're sitting in a traffic jam on the way home from a job you don't love. And if you let it, that comparison will slowly, quietly, methodically destroy your belief in your own journey. Because comparison always lies to you. It shows you their chapter 10 while you're on chapter 2. It shows you their harvest while you're still in the planting season. It shows you their polished, public, camera-ready version of success and hides from you the years of failure, rejection, doubt, sacrifice, and relentless work that built that success from the ground up. Your journey is not their journey. Your timeline is not their timeline. And most importantly, your gift is not their gift. There is something in you that nobody else on this planet can offer in exactly the way you can offer it. Not a version of it. Not something similar. Exactly it. And the moment you stop comparing your unique, irreplaceable gift to someone else's and start cultivating it with everything you have, that is the moment your life begins to move in ways you never thought possible. I remember reading about a conversation Steve Harvey had with a young man who came to him frustrated. This young man was talented, he was working hard, but nothing seemed to be happening fast enough. He was watching other people succeed and feeling like he was falling behind. And Steve Harvey told him something that I want to tattoo on the inside of your eyelids so you see it every time you close your eyes. He said, stop looking at what other people are doing and start focusing on who you are becoming. Who you are becoming. Not what you're achieving, not what you're earning, not what you're accumulating, who you are becoming. Because the becoming always precedes the having. The internal transformation is always the foundation upon which the external results are built. And you cannot rush the transformation. You can only show up for it day after day after day after day with consistency and courage and a refusal to quit when the progress feels invisible. Let me close this part of our conversation with a story. There was a bamboo farmer, and this story is not about Steve Harvey specifically, but it is deeply relevant to everything we're talking about. There was a bamboo farmer who planted Chinese bamboo seeds. And for 5 years, 5 full years, nothing happened. He watered those seeds, he tended to that soil, he protected that ground. And for 5 years, there was nothing to show for it. No sprout, no shoot, no sign of life. Anyone watching from the outside would have said, this man is wasting his time. Anyone looking at the results would have said, this dream isn't working. But then, in the 6th year, something remarkable happened. The Chinese bamboo grew 90 feet in 6 weeks. 90 feet in 6 weeks. Now here's the question. Did that bamboo grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Or did it grow 90 feet in 6 years and 6 weeks? The answer, of course, is that it grew 90 feet in 6 years and 6 weeks. All that time when nothing was visible, the roots were growing. The foundation was being laid. The infrastructure was being built beneath the surface in preparation for an explosion of growth that the naked eye couldn't see coming. Your life works exactly like that bamboo. The years, when nothing seems to be happening, are not wasted years. They are root years. They are foundation years. They are the years that everything else will stand on. And if you quit in year 4 because you can't see the growth, if you walk away from the seeds you planted because the ground looks bare, you will miss the 90 feet that was always coming. Don't quit in your 4th year. Don't quit in your middle. Your breakthrough is not behind you. It is ahead of you. And every day you show up, every 30 minutes you invest, every fear you push past, every moment of doubt you survive, you are getting closer to the moment when your bamboo breaks through the ground and the whole world gets to see what was always there, growing quietly in the dark.